Hello from Magicland Farms. In this video, I'd like to talk about tillage and some of its pros and cons and the reasons why we do it. And then later in the video, I'll show all the different pieces of tillage equipment that we have and why we use them. The positives for tillage, especially for us here at Magicland Farms, one of them is the simple fact that I'm a vegetable farmer, so having a smooth, soft seed bed is a lot easier to actually plant the seed into. The other benefits of having a soft seed bed is that it's been aerated, which gives more air to the roots, which when it comes to roots, having them well aerated and not suffocating is a good thing. That also, the benefit of aeration is that the organic matter that's in the soil, last year's crop trash, which is a term for the plant residue that was from last year, it will break down, rot quicker, which would release its nutrients for the crop that you're planting. The other benefits is for a lot of the soil types I have, is that it will allow water to penetrate the soil easier versus just running off on the top. And one of the big ones for me is that it wipes out the first wave of weeds. It will give a nice stale seed bed where it gives the vegetable crops a little time to grow before the weeds. Now, when it comes to the cons or the drawbacks to tillage, I do have to be very careful with hard pan, which is when you're tilling, you can form a hard layer, compacted layer further down in the soil, usually at the base of where you're plowing, where it will keep the water from flowing through, which might cause more water to stay closer to the surface, which would suffocate the roots and the plants will die, or you just get flooded fields. Also, even if you don't have that problem, the hard pan will keep the roots from being able to take advantage of some of the lower soils. That would be for some of the crops, like tomatoes. They can actually go pretty far down in the soil. Watermelon, it's amazing how far they go down. They sometimes 9 or 12 feet. So not having a hard pan is a big deal, and you do have to be careful with it with tillage, but the ways to minimize that, which we do here at Magicland Farms, is using different types of tillage for different types of soils that we have and certain types of equipment, which I'll be showing you later in this video. Other problems with tillage, which we don't have too much where we're located due to having so many tree lines and so forth, is wind erosion. Once you have all the soil particles exposed and aerated, it's a lot easier for the wind to take it. But since we have so many tree lines and so forth, we minimize on actual wind, how strong the wind is. So we don't really have much blowing dust, for instance. You also have to worry about the water erosion, rain erosion and so forth. I have more of a problem with that. That is because a lot of my fields are on hills, which is great for not having them sit in water, my vegetable crops, but it has it so the water will wash away some of the soil. I have methods and so forth that help minimize that, mainly on the orientation of how I plant on the hills. But when it comes to, I am needing to till for my vegetable crops. Well, I think that's pretty much it on the pros and cons. I'd like to take you to each of our pieces of equipment that we use for tillage and tell you about why and why we use them, how we use them, and so forth, and what their main purposes are. Like the one I'm sitting on. This is a mobile plow, or bottom plow. Its main job is to turn over the soil in such a way that it will cover whatever is on the top. You may see these in some fields, people plowing up their hay fields and so forth, because there's so much organic matter and stuff on the top, they need to flip it over before they can plant a new crop in it. So this piece of equipment is a little more on the harder side to use, because you have to do a certain pattern out in the field to get a good turnover of the soil. This will cover about, if you're good at it, will cover about 100% of the trash that is out in the field. Once again, the trash is a term that is used for describe the leftover plant residue of last year, or just anything that's pretty much on top of the soil. So it will literally take the soil from underneath and flip it over, exposing just the clean soil from underneath, which then you can smooth out and then plant your crops on, which is I need. But this is actually one of the worst ones for creating hard pan. So I got to be careful how much I use it, and I have to do some other types of tillage to help break it up, because it will form it over time. All right, now off to the other form of plow that I have to show and explain the differences between these two. And here is the other plow I was mentioning. It's a chisel plow. It does go a little deeper than the bottom plow. That it would, so if I interchange between those two, it would help with the hard pan. So whatever the bottom plow develops, this will help break up. It's not 100%, but it's switching between them helps a lot. This is a lot easier to use because you don't have to actually go in any specific pattern. You can just go wherever you want, and basically a big knife will cut through the soil, giving you more aeration of it. Now what it does do is that it doesn't cover the trash, the old plant residue, as well. You're only talking about like a 50% cover. So your field probably shouldn't have a whole lot of previous trash. It's not one that you would use for like opening up a hayfield for other crops. But for a lot of my low plant residue fields, this is my go-to tillage, plow tillage for it. This is the initial tillage that we would use. The chisel plow doesn't cover up as much as the bottom plow, only about 50% or so. It's pretty much just a like almost like a knife, but not quite a knife. It feels like an oversized field cultivator, but it's just a blade that a small blade that goes into the ground fairly deep, that cuts a channel, lifting and moving things, aerating it, versus like the bottom plow that literally cuts underneath and then flips it. This will just flip a very small amount, leaving some trash on the surface. Now I would like to take you over to our other forms of tillage. These are the next ones that are usually after I do the plowing. Their main purpose is to smooth out the seed bed so it's more uniform on my planting, easier for the planter to go through. And this is another piece of equipment that I use to primarily help smooth out the plowed ground from the other two. It's a medium-sized disc, roughly 20 to 22 inch discs. This can be used for primary tillage. In other words, if I am not able to use the plows, I can use this to turn the soil. It just won't go deep as the others. So there's actually more of a chance of forming hard pans with this. But that's one reason why I mainly use it, just to smooth out soils. There are some other discs that are so large and so forth that they act almost like a mill bore, the bottom plow. But I don't use those type. It's just the smoothing out effect of the disc that I have. Just to let you know that this is also called a disc harrow. Harrows are usually used to smooth out soils or to knock down more weeds. For instance, if I prepare a ground early in the season, knocking a whole bunch of the first weeds down, and then the weeds come up again right before I want to plant, I will probably take the disc out, this disc, and disc it up so that kills the weeds again. So helping form a stale seed bed for planting. Also smooths it out so it's easier for the planter to get through. Now off to another piece of equipment. And here is another form of tillage that we've used and continue to use. Is a rotavator. You might know as like a tiller, but it's a you hook up the tractor, the PTO. It would spin a series of blades to work up and aerate the soil. It's a smaller piece of tillage that we don't really use that much in the fields, other than when it's really a tight situation where I have multiple crops around it and I just need a small piece of equipment to get in to till. I would be using it. We have two of them. This one is one that has been modified to make raised beds, so it would till like normal, but I have pieces of plywood and so forth to channel into a hill in the back. Once again, this is just for in those tight situations. It's not a primary use of tillage here at the Magicland Farms. This, right beside it, I pulled from the weeds, is a subsoiler. This is the type of equipment that would help break up hard pan. That's that compacted subsoil. It goes so deep that it should knife through it. I will use this in some of my soils where I know it is to be a problem with compaction. Not that many, I don't have that much, and I only need to do it once in a while. And I only really do it on certain crops that require deep roots. This has also been modified with a plate, extra sized plate. This is actually to help with cleaning up some of the fields, lifting up some of the plastic mulch that we use, and also for loosening up the soil for harvesting the garlic. So I would put this down, loosen up the soil underneath the garlic, and then we can just pull them up easily. Normally, the subsoiler would only have a blade about that big. So we just extended it just to modify it to work better for us here at Magicland Farms. All right, now there's one other form of tillage that we use is the spring tooth harrow. And we'll be heading off over there next. And the last piece of equipment that I wanted to introduce to you to is my spring tooth harrow, also known as a drag, since that's all you do, is just drag it along the soil top. This is used for smoothing out the soil even more. So if I needed a really smooth soil seed bed, then I would use this. Also, I can use it to get rid of a few of the tiny weeds that pop up right before I want to plant. I can use this to go over it so it kills them. But its main purpose is to smooth out a seed bed to make it easier to plant seed. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to watch in the future for other videos on how we do things here at Magicland Farms. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.